Hello, I found some goggles because I don't know what else to do right now, Josh.
You look like Spy Kids.
I feel like Spy Kids.
You definitely feel like Spy Kids. I definitely feel like it. We are missing out on our wonderful host today. We were supposed to have Mizell.
What, are you trying to say this isn't good halftime content?
It is halftime content for sure. Is it the best? It is what we have today. But let's take a little bit of time, Magical, to talk about that last game because it was wild, right? We saw, you know, we said we had the whole hero story the entire time. We got to see Kumo. He started off as an absolute monster up in the top lane, right? Finding 3 solo kills back to back to back. And after that, he just kind of stopped being nearly as relevant, right? He was not able to find the same kind of split push. And, you know, that was partly because he went super defensive, but also I feel like Kumo being a little bit too timid on the split.
Yeah, I think he just there's some situations where I'm like, okay, he can easily get the inhibitor here. He can push bot lane because his team's already focused on this part of the map. But it just felt like he was a little afraid, didn't want to overstep and then have his team punish on the other side, which we did see. We saw that Evil Geniuses did have some good punishes. I mean, especially like you think the shockwave from Soligo, how massive that was, Cowrie, and how some of the fights he was able to just skirt danger barely. But it felt like that was also the problem, that Evil Geniuses used these great plays, and they were downloaded by FlyQuest saying, okay, we can't let that happen again.
Yeah, and I kind of want to go back to like what I thought was one of the key pivotal moments of the game where we saw FlyQuest, you know, we're setting up for Ocean Soul. Evil Geniuses have 3 dragons, and if they get Ocean Soul, they probably win the game on the spot. But FlyQuest challenged them and saying, no, we're going to actually fight over the Baron. And I gotta say, that was, you know, the way that Evil Geniuses came back. And it's not necessarily Evil Geniuses making super strong plays. There's like, oh, they're doing the Baron, I guess we'll challenge them, right? It was FlyQuest hitting the Baron. They're like, nah, we're going to back out. Hitting the Baron again. Nah, I don't really like this. And it's leaving Evil Geniuses in a couple important good positions. One, they have control. They can just go in and take the fight. They can prevent the Baron from happening. 2, they can peel off the Baron and just go pick up the Ocean Soul if FlyQuest ever stop going for it. And 3, Kumo's not splitting. So the fact that this Trinity isn't getting even further ahead at the same time just means that Evil Geniuses stop all 3 ways that FlyQuest is going to try and threaten to win the game. Because FlyQuest never commits to it, they never commit to the flip, they never actually manage to find the team fight. It's just Evil Geniuses coming back because FlyQuest made a decision, but were unwilling to decide that that was what they wanted to do.
That's funny, because usually after long games like that, the losing side, you'd be like, oh, that's a tilter, they got to feel bad, and the winning side is like, oh, that's a relief. And it's funny, for this one, I actually think it's the opposite. I think that Evil Geniuses should be proud of how that game went, even if it was a loss, the comebacks, the finding these mistakes, punishing them. And then for FlyQuest, they just had one too many mistakes that almost cost them the entire game.
Yeah, I mean, at the very end, right, we did get to see that Kumo comes through. He's able to find his way onto Cowrie, which is kind of one of the things that we were alluding to the entire game, right? Like, Cowrie is going to struggle to deal with the Azir. He's going to struggle to deal with the Tryndamere. He's going to struggle to deal with the Viego if they all are able to get onto him. But we never saw FlyQuest really do that, and the only time that Cowrie went a little bit too far was when he challenged Tomo, who was able to just fire back, put him into the Guardian's Angel, and allow Kumo to actually get on top. And even then, it was a very touch-and-go fight, so it feels like FlyQuest, you know, they have all these really good ideas, but it's a situation where you need to be able to execute on them in order to make them good. And it's part of why, right, we were looking at FlyQuest. Are they a top team? Their record says yes. They are now, what is it? They are now 9-2.
Yeah.
But after watching that game, I have to ask, is this team going to be able to beat Team Liquid? I don't think so.
And I think that's the big thing. It's that we're comparing everyone to Team Liquid because they are looking like the hottest team. They're the bar. They're the champions. The current reigning champions from Proving Grounds. They've also been playing out of their minds this entire split. And so looking at how teams compare to them is a big question, especially for FlyQuest, because this isn't their first time having a game that was kind of like, where are you like, oh, man, even though they got the win, how good are they? I think this is like their second or third time they've had a game like that where you're like, but how are they going to be able to do that against a team like Team Liquid, who are great at punishing mistakes?
And so we saw this going up against Immortals last week as well, right? Where FlyQuest, they have some really good plays in the early mid game, right? Kumo has some good early teleports. Today he got a bunch of solo kills. And once you can find those kind of advantages, they're able to kind of push through, and then they're just a little bit more clutch than a lot of other teams. And we got to say that, when we look at players like Tomo, like Kumo, like Diamond, having this little bit of an extra clutch factor is important, right? It actually gets you the enemy nexus. But you don't want to have to be clutch, right? You want to be able to get there in a very clean fashion. I feel like FlyQuest, for how much we've been praising Diamond, it felt like he's not necessarily like on his game today.
All right, so I've come up with a halftime show. Are you ready? It's super unique and super original.
Okay, I'm ready.
It's tic-tac-toe. So, if you can see it. My camera's kind of being weird.
Are we going to try and relate this to the game at all?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I was very impressed with how both Spyrex and Soligo played.
Like, do you want to be X's or O's? You want to be X's or O's?
I'll take the X because it's Spyrex.
Okay. I'm going to try to make it like a Sharpie because my camera's being all funky. You can really see it. There we go. So your X's.
All right, we'll take the X's.
Okay. Then I'll take an O, and I'll go...
All right, you have to justify it.
I'll go with the... What is that? The top left corner. No, actually, let's go with the top... No, the bottom left. Because FlyQuest won the game, and that's where the Nexus was.
There you go. That is true. That is, in fact, how the map works in a game of League of Legends. Okay, well, we already got Spyrex. I really liked how he was able to play a lot of the game. We see the Nexus exploding. Let's put another X up on the top left, right? Because that's where Surdy died quite a bit, right?
Oh,
3 solo kills going over Kumo was able to dive him, and eventually we saw that the Warriors Mail coming out right away from Surdy didn't necessarily allow him to survive. He wasn't able to give up things with grace.
True, and I'm gonna go with an O in the bottom right corner because
crazy, unbelievable. I can't believe you're playing to win here.
Well, hold on, I have justification for this because Cowrie looked really good in that game, and he was what I would consider the contributing factor to why that game was so close for Evil Geniuses. I think he ended the game 7-2 or something like that. So I think that's why I justify myself going into the bottom.
Okay. Well, let's go. Let's see. Let's figure out what we want to do.
I'll be honest. I have a hard time justifying this one. I don't know if I could even justify that. Like, it would be my win, but I'm like, wait, how could I justify that?
How do you do it? I'm trying to come up with something too where I can like actually block.
Right? It's like
I
don't know.
What happened that was really good in the bottom side of the map? We saw Kumo take a couple red buffs. Is that enough?
That'll be good. That'll be good.
He definitely took 2 red buffs away from Tommy.
We'll count it. We'll count it.
Okay. We got there.
Crap. Now I have to justify the top one. I
mean, there's an easy answer.
Well,
Kubo was 7,000 gold ahead.
Yeah, I guess, but I already technically have the corner here, so it's like, screw it. I'm going to use that justification.
All right. Well, there's not a lot of ways for me to win at this point. There's not a lot of ways for me to lose.
No, I was about to say, it's pretty hard for either of us to win or lose. Like a normal game of tic-tac-toe.
Insane. It feels like we are both at least a couple years old. We do know how this game is played. What else was really interesting about that game, right? Because we did see that Evil Geniuses, it felt like they were winning a lot of fights.
Yeah, I mean, you can have the one, like, depending if you want to put...
mix it up. I'm going to mix it up, Alex.
Okay.
I'm going to go on the right, but I'm going to put an O there for Soligo Shockwaves.
Okay. So, the center one, I'm taking it, right? Or the top one?
Whichever. Either way.
Yeah, let's put it center, because... Yeah, I can come up with one over here, too. There's the solo kill that... well, not solo kill. It's the pick that Spyrex and Yuji got onto Soligo.
Oh, yeah, when they dove him underneath the turret. That's what I wanted Kumo to do the entire game.
Yeah. All right.
So you said, wait, why did you give me an X?
Well, because that was for FlyQuest. I had to. It was for FlyQuest.
I was trying to give you a win, Magic.
Well,
you were so insistent on winning all of our games last week.
Yeah, but it's just you and me now. It's like, now it's just friendly
we
like,
can't brag to Sierra.
Yeah, exactly. It's like,
Okay.
it's just friendly camaraderie, you know, the caster synergy.
Okay. Well, luckily, we can call this an accounts game. We'll put an X in the top right in order to go to the champion select.
Because they won! Yay! All right!
Yay!
That's our halftime show. I hear that champion select is
us.
ready, so we can dive into that instead of playing some tic-tac-toe. That was totally original. Do not steal. As we dive into our second game of this best of 2, we see that FlyQuest now on the blue side. They still ban away that Wukong.
That's actually super fascinating to me, right? Actually diving in.
Right.
We have seen Yuji play this 8 times. So far.
That's why I'm surprised they're first banning it, not just trying to take it.
Right, it's such a good pick. I still think it's the best pick on all of 12-11, and when Yuji is incredibly comfortable on it, when you can use it to have an extra ban up against Tomio, the fact that they're not going for this is fascinating. They have to be going for something else, right? The Aphelios was okay, right? Like Tomo, not Tomio. Man, there's so many similar names between these two teams. When Tomo wasn't able to actually build up a lead going up against Kairi and Smoothie, they were able to neutralize, but they weren't able to find any wins. I don't imagine that's what they're going for, and I'm not sure what else they would really want to first pick in this kind of situation, because it doesn't feel like there's anything that is a denial, and...
The only thing would have been that FLYA. That's the only thing I could have thought of, and then Evil Geniuses just banned that away. As well, I like this, the Seraphine ban. We've been seeing a lot of LCS teams, as well as some Academy teams, starting to pick up more on the Enchanter bot lanes, and how that can really function. As well, you know, denying illusion that functions well with those Enchanters.
Okay. All right, we are going to be seeing the Senna come through for FlyQuest, right? We have seen Tomo play this once so far. He and Diamond have played the Senna Tom Kench only the one time, but this isn't going to be the kind of lane that we always see them go back towards it. It says to me that they are looking to lose lane just a little bit and then be more relevant later on and allow Kairi and Smoothie to kind of have an opportunity to build up some advantages. And with Ezreal looking to get locked in, is almost definitely going to get paired with a Karma.
Yeah, a lot of this is making sense. The Evelyn hover, I had like a little bait because I looked up and it looked like it got locked in. I'm like, no way did they actually lock that in. And I'm like, okay, no,
not
they
first.
didn't. Yeah, that would be wild to see, especially coming in from Tomio. But here, this makes sense. The Ezreal Karma into what we're presuming is going to be the Senna Tom Kench bot lane.
Yeah. Now, the thing that we do have to note, right, is the jungle still hasn't been picked up for Tomio. He's played the Viego, he's played the Wukong, he's played the Volibear, and he's played the Graves. The Volibear was fine, right? He actually set some of the tone early on in the game, but I also really like this Taliyah, right? It's something that we kind of expect that both Spyrex and Yuji can play.
Yes.
So far, neither of them have actually brought it out yet.
Right, and that's what I was going to bring up because, well, a lot of people would look at this on the onset and be like, oh, that's going to be Yuji playing that one. I think this is more of a Spyrex champion because if you go back in Spyrex's history, he has played Taliyah in the past. He knows that. He's got a champion ocean. The guy has a lot of things that he can pull out of his sleeve to try to see if he can compete against Soligo, especially now that Soligo takes away Azir, almost, to me, saying like that's a secondary ban.
Yeah, I really like that it is coming through, right, in order to try and deny some things. And the Yone ban coming through as well up against Spyrex, who has played it at least once. We've seen this champion have a lot of success into the Azir so far, especially when piloted by Harry. But you want to make sure that if you can use this to force the Taliyah into the mid lane, if you just take away a lot of other good counterpicks to the Azir. Yeah,
it's pretty much trying to force the hand. You're not only taking away the Azir to make sure that you don't have to worry about, even if it would be kind of funky to have an Azir Taliyah on the one side, but you also know how powerful Spyrex can be on that champion, so despite that, you're wanting to take that away, deny a strong pick, but also trying to force in maybe Spyrex to play the Taliyah, maybe have a better jungle matchup, knowing that the Azir does fairly well into Taliyah.
Yeah, you definitely have a lot of range to try and contest Taliyah, but we are seeing another adaptation, right? The fact that Evil Geniuses have last pick, Surdy will have an opportunity to get the counter pick this time around, and he is going to be able to dictate the matchup to Kuma. Now, we saw it last game. It was a bad matchup, right? This is the classic counter pick that Darshan has piloted for years into the Gangplank. That matchup is miserable to play for the Gangplank, but Surdy's not going to be in a similar situation, right? No. He will be able to dictate it. And while we flipped tails for the first game, it's not impossible for him to try and flip heads this time.
Well, let's try it really quick. Let's get the coin out. That's heads this time, so maybe it might actually work out for him.
Okay, well, we'll see if they're able to do it. The Vladimir ban is very fascinating, right? Because we know that Surdy has been playing this a fair amount in Champions Queue, but from the words of himself when he's typed into Twitch chat, ha ha ha, I don't know how to play Vladimir, every time that he's still willing to play up against the Gangplank. It's a little bit surprising to me that the ban is going to be coming through this time, and no way.
All right, Xin Zhao. So this has actually been kind of interesting. We've been slowly seeing Xin Zhao come back as more of a niche pick when a lot of other things have been banned, especially into things that have more range to them, such as with Talia, such as Senna, that you can deny a lot of that once you have your ult to make sure that you're not taking nearly as much damage, nor do you have to worry about the zone control Talias tend to get.
Yeah, I mean, we know that Xin Zhao used to be one of the best junglers on the patch, right? Or not the patch. He was one of the best junglers in Spring. He was just so strong. His ability to be intangible to everything around him outside of the circle was really powerful, but they cut down that really hard. He doesn't have the same kind of power, and Evil Geniuses, they look to be going right on back to that same style. The Xin Zhao plus the Gwen was so good in Spring, but both these champions have received fairly substantial nerfs since then, and I'm surprised that Evil Geniuses are going back to it. They are trying to find their comfort.
Yeah, but to me it just feels like there's a little bit of comfort, but there's also that zone control, trying to force out these members that tend to have a little bit more range to them. Even the barrel chains from Gangplank not as reliable into something like Xin Zhao or a Gwen who have good zone control. But also, I will say, it was a good call out from us, the fact that Spyrex is going to be playing the Talia, and it will be Graves for Yuji, which also makes more sense since Yuji tends to be more of that AD-centric jungler.
Yeah. This would also be very interesting, right? Because if the Tahm Kench doesn't go through, well, I heard we have a bit of a draft bug, so the only question will be like whether Tahm Kench is being played by Tummel or Diamond. I'm expecting it to be Diamond yet again.
Yeah.
It's still an opportunity to kind of flip things up a little bit. The Senna pick is very flexible. They have locket builds, they have lethality builds. The Kraken Slayer and like the Divine Center build, like they're not trolling, they're just like not peak of the meta at this point. And so
what about Prowler's Claw? For Senna.
I don't.
Or Tahm Kench.
As far as things that you have brought up, I feel like the Prowler's Claw and Senna might be one of the more normal ones. So, you know, it's not the worst thing I've ever heard. It is on the table, but probably like in a drawer.
But what about Tahm Kench? What about Tahm Kench then?
No, we will not entertain that one for all the sanity of our viewers.
What about Riftmaker Tahm Kench?
Looking at this top lane Magical, I definitely am very excited to see how the Gwen is actually going to be going up against the Gangplank, right? Because it is similar to Tryndamere in some ways in that it can just run the Gangplank down, especially once you hit level 6. And so Kumo does have to be very careful about it, but it doesn't have the same kind of diving potential like the Tryndamere does. So this is a situation for Surdy to kind of show that he understands his champion a little bit better, and he can find the same kind of success that Kumo did in Game 1.
Yeah, and for Surdy's sake, I mean, the coin now is favoring him this time. Well, last time it was tail, so maybe it's also a red side buff that we're seeing from top laners. But the Gwen, I kind of want to go back to the point you talked about with Gwen and Xin Zhao, how they suffered quite a few series of nerfs. Even though Gwen, with all those nerfs, has not, by any stretch of the imagination, really gone out of the meta, it's still something that is now more easily piloted against in a matchup like the Gangplank.
Yeah, and it's definitely something where, you know, having the double in intangibility coming out from the top jungle makes it really hard for a lot of these ranged champions to try and function. All
right, I do hear that our game is ready to start. I hear the bug has already been resolved. We've got it all fixed up. So why don't we just dive into the second game between FlyQuest Academy, who barely scraped victory in the first game of the best of 2, against Evil Geniuses Academy, who direly need these victories as they continue to slip down the ranks.
We'll see if they can try to turn things around. I do have to note that it is Diamond playing the Tahm Kench again.
Yeah, that's expected.
But I do want to talk a little bit more about this Xin Zhao pick, right? Because it is something that a lot of junglers reported felt really bad to play as, Yuji is spotted. They should know that there is now a ward on the red buff. But losing out on the number of seconds that you have on the ultimate to just prevent people from hitting you, it makes the champion feel much less tanky, right? It just feels as though you can't do quite as much. But as long as you're staying in combat, you can make it persist for a long time. So Tomio really needs to kind of get stuck in. But at the same time, going up against all these ranged champions, they kite him. So there's a lot of play back and forth about whether or not Tomio can get strong enough that it doesn't matter this champion might struggle in these matchups.
Actually, now that you mention it, I look at Evil Geniuses and the lockdown capabilities they have, and it really does lack that to be desired.
Yeah, there's not a lot of crowd control coming out from Evil Geniuses. It's almost entirely focused on Soligo. At the same time, though, FlyQuest doesn't have a ton of crowd control either, right? Spyrex has a stun, you have some slows coming through, but in terms of like your ability to start fights, it's mostly going to be Spyrex finding these big flanks or Diamond abusing Fog of War to find their way onto players like Soligo and Kauri. But Kauri's on Ezreal. It's so hard to actually lock him down. It's why this champion has become so strong, and Kauri, his positioning has been very good in spring, and he looked like he was coming back with a vengeance even halfway through game 1.
Well, I was about to say, not even halfway through most of game 1, who looked really powerful on that Kalista, and you can see why players, even if it hasn't picked up victory just yet in this split, are banning away Kalista from Kauri. His positioning is definitely looking a lot better. Like that last game, I don't think that was necessarily inherently his fault. There was just a good fight from FlyQuest that was able to punish that of Evil Geniuses.
So now we have to ask, like, how is this game going to compare to game 1? Last game went to like 40 minutes, and I would be curious. I would imagine that FlyQuest might have the longest average game time of any team, just because that is like the 3rd or 4th game that they've played that has gone past 40 minutes. But oop, Kumo.
Yeah, Kumo getting a good trade on a Surdy there, and this is kind of what we're alluding to with this top lane. The Gwen matchup into Gangplank was far more Gwen-sided earlier on, back when we really saw Gwen dominating the meta, but it's still a skill matchup regardless. Now, with some of the nerfs, it's become far more even, more 50-50 between the two, if you ask me.
Yeah, after losing some of the attack range on your E, it's been very difficult for Gwen to really kind of punish Gangplank to the same degree as they used to. And so we are seeing that Kumo coming out fairly strong at the beginning, but Yuji and Tomio finding each other.
Oh, a little bit of a skirmish here. Tomio will have the upper hand there. Could dive over the wall, but decides not to audacious charge into Yuji, especially because he doesn't feel confident his top laner could back him up.
Exactly. Surdy is basically half HP, doesn't have a whole lot of mana, while they do have the Ghost to try and join. It's not necessarily going to be the freest thing for Tomio, but Tomio really needs to try and find some these early game advantages. The champion doesn't scale quite as well, and while he did a good job setting the tempo last game, he's still letting Yuji really kind of dictate the early game to him.
Also, Josh, I did find out the game timer who has the longest average game timer so far in this split. Actually, it's Dignitas by a large margin. It's a 35-50 for them on average. While TSM
on average.
Yeah, and TSM are second at 34 of 30. FlyQuest right on their heels at 34-21.
Wow, okay. Well, it looks like FlyQuest are trying to pump those numbers up. Those are, in fact, rookie numbers, turns out. But overall, this game still seems relatively even. We're not seeing the same kind of domination early game from the FlyQuest solo laners like we did in the first game. It's been relatively even, and Soligo, with a small lead, does have a range advantage to play up against Spyrex, and that is a very different story from what we saw the first time around. It is looking quite good for Evil Geniuses in comparison.
It is. And they are getting some substantial leads, even if, substantial in terms of what point of the game we're in, right? Only 5 minutes in. You're getting some CS leads for Kauri, for Soligo, for Surdy. Even if it's only minor, it's not like they're that far ahead. Should net them some control. You can even see how that's playing out on the bottom side of the map. They've already got Tomio in position to be able to take that Scuttle Crab, get themselves a little bit of a better spot so they can look to get that dragon early.
So far, magical. We kind of go back to the coin flipping top lane, right? Surdy, he trades a lot of his HP to get the wave in, but oh no, Kumo!
Oh my, that is a little unfortunate for Kumo, because there's that last half second of the 8-second recall timer that even if you get damage on during that time, the recall will still go off.
Yeah, and even though he was almost never getting the kill, the fact that he allows Surdy to go back means that Surdy will be able to catch this wave, and Kumo doesn't get to just bully around Surdy for a while. So it was a gamble that ends up not paying off, but again, this is not the Kumo that I remember from previous splits.
This is far more aggressive.
Yeah, this is far more aggressive than we were used to seeing, but as we're seeing Yuji come top lane, it's going to be taking away some of Tomio's camps, and it's going to be a situation where Tomio has to actually get these dragons. He needs to continue fighting these advantages before this Graves just kind of outscales him.
And they already got that first dragon, at least. So they've got that under their belt for Tomio, as well as some of the camps. I think he even got the Krugs away from Yuji on the bottom side of the map, so it's not like he's actually that far behind. The bigger thing is looking for the tempo, looking for the plays, because that's why we highlighted having these CS leads in these lanes all across the board, is when does Tomio start to impact, especially on Xin Zhao, like you had mentioned, that kind of starts to fall off after mid-game.
Yeah, he's going to be losing his top side of the jungle. It is completely warded up as Tomio tries to get back onto the map. He's going to discover his Krugs are gone, that his red buff is gone. And is Yuji even hitting it? I think Yuji's been waiting for Tomio this whole time.
I think he is. He's looking for the kill. Oh, no, he actually has.
Finally got it.
He got it pretty easily. Now he's level 6, fighting against Tomio. There's a cannon barrage to try to help out this battle, but the flashes for both sides. Where's the collateral damage going to come in to pick up the kill for Yuji? Try to cut it back, but Spyrex is here to save the day and make sure they can get the kill inside of enemy territory. While they still have a potential fight on the top side of the map, bot lane skirmishing a bit back and forth. We're seeing good amounts of damage from each side. If we can, oh, wait a minute. Whoa, Tomo has to get out of there because Kaori is on a vengeance and picks up a kill 1-for-1 while top lane. Man, there's just action everywhere, Josh. We have 2 more kills for the side of FlyQuest.
Absolutely crazy stuff coming through. The fact that they collapse onto Tomio is matched by Kaori's aggression on the bottom side. But this is definitely a situation where FlyQuest are much happier with the outcome of this. They are putting Tomio behind the Xin Zhao that we were saying needs to find early game advantages, is already down several camps, is down an entire level going up against Yuji. And the Gangplank, with a couple of kills, isn't being forced to go into a Warden's Mill like we saw Surdy do last game. So suddenly, Kumo, Yuji, and Spyrex, some of the newer players for the team, are actually finding the advantages for FlyQuest.
We're even seeing, while it's a typical kind of build start for Gwen into Gangplank matchup, it still feels bad having to go for the plated steel caps, whatever they call it nowadays, just because it does delay a little bit more of that damage that you can have in these fights. And with Surdy now getting harassed by Spyrex, look at how much damage he takes from any AP damage source.
Yeah, it's very difficult for them to try and walk in, and Evil Geniuses are going to have to give this up. This is FlyQuest kind of being classic FlyQuest at this point. But we also have to note at the same time that because Kaori and Diamond are staying in the bottom side, we should be expecting that Tomo Diamond should be fairly far behind in terms of the CS that they're at. But they are still even right now, right? It's definitely a position where FlyQuest, the fact that they are even means that they are winning the bottom lane.
Yeah. Because that's the whole point of a weak side bot lane, right? The Senna Tom catch, as long as they're even, not falling behind, they're in a good spot. Though I do want to kind of touch on the fact that Kaori, with that aggressive play, was able to get the kill over Tomo and really slow down the Senna a bit more. Tom Kench getting the items is fairly standard. Even getting the kill kind of will help him get back towards that Frostfire Gauntlet pretty early. But you want Tomo to be in a similar spot. You don't want Tomo to fall too far behind either in experience.
Yeah, if Tomo falls super far behind, it will become problematic, but it's definitely not problematic just quite yet. As Surdy goes in.
Surdy goes in. There's the needlework damage, getting a lot onto Tomo, but that's Senna helping out save the day for Kumo. Kumo's got a shield and a little bit of fight back from Surdy, but no longer having needlework nor having Ghost. He has to run back towards his turret, and that's a lot of damage coming in from that parlay.
And that's going to be a wave lost to Surdy. His teleport will not be up in time before Kumo actually gets this wave in. And so this is going to be another win as we're seeing Kumo. It looks like he was flipping heads both times. He's the one taking control. And this is a little bit surprising, right? We know that Evil Geniuses is a team that is very dependent on how they're feeling on the day. But Surdy...
Okay, I do respect him. I respect him, though, staying around for the minions, because he is also forcing Kumo underneath the turret. He was able to deny a lot of the damage, gets himself that wave. Now, TP is up, so he can easily TP back into the lane as well. You have a lot of TPs on the side of Evil Geniuses to try to make sure they're maintaining some sort of gold, either leads or consistency.
Yeah, and there's the TP forced out from Kumo. So the fact that the Gangplank is coming out ahead, right? You were talking about how it's a skill matchup. It feels like Kumo is winning out on that so far, and now FlyQuest can play the rest of the map.
Nice seismic shove coming in from Spyrex. Emperor's Divide does nothing. You are at the end of the line there.
going to be so much control going over to FlyQuest, right? Suddenly, the last lane has given up a kill, and we were saying that Xin Zhao, he needed to find these ways onto the Dragons, but it's FlyQuest who have position on it. Yuji is already here. He can definitely solo it with Smoothie backing.
Yeah, Smoothie backing will be the fact that you have Yuji in the vicinity, nobody there to back up Kaori, so Kaori falling back towards the cert, even pinging out that probably Yuji's on the bottom half of the map, but instead of going for the Dragon with those leads from the bot lane, even having a slight edge in mid lane now that Spyrex is back, opts not to. Instead goes for some chicken.
It is more tasty, but ooh.
All right, how do you know? Have you ever had Dragon?
I imagine it tastes like chicken.
No, that's dinosaurs. And right now, Tomio, God, this is what happens when you have names too similar. Kumo, Tomo, and Tomio. But Tomio got bullied out. Yuji was able to enter. His jungle has that Gore Drinker already built up and saying, this is now my territory. Tomio, you're going to have a bad time.
Yeah, ooh, Yuji and Spyrex coming down. The Weaver's Wall is available, and so Kaori and Smoothie have to back up. This is at least 3 plates going down, and FlyQuest can look for more.
They have flashes up, though. Even with the Rift Herald being charged up and ready to go to take down this turret, won't be the full aggression coming in from the side of FlyQuest. In fact, I think they were able to kill the Rift Herald before it had the charge. Now, Surdy, this is that power that you look towards when you have the Gwen matchup into Gangplank. Once you get Riftmaker completed, it's even easier.
Yeah, they do stop the Rift Herald from actually crashing. It's only the 2 plates just from showing up, and Yuji, ooh, steals away the Grom, clears out some of the vision, but Surdy, at the same time, this entire map just feels like it's so much more scrappy this game than it was in the first one.
Yeah, really, this game is on a knife's edge, and it feels like even though FlyQuest have the 2,000 gold lead at the moment, most of it being into Yuji's pockets, one good fight, one good play in one of these lanes from Evil Geniuses will completely shift the tides, and they will be the ones in control.
Yeah, but look at the fact. I love what Yuji's been doing, right? This is not the same kind of Yuji we were used to seeing, where he was kind of sitting there and doing his job. He is actively living in Tomio's jungle, and Tomio...
Yeah, Tomio has to dodge away from the Tongue Slash and use the Crescent Strike to get out of there. With the Cannon Barrage utilized, Diamond has to get the flash out of Tomio too, so they can just go towards the Dragon themselves. That will be FlyQuest's first Dragon of the game.
And it's a Hextech Dragon, absolutely insane dragon to pick up. It is so strong. But we get another Ocean Soul Magical. This is going to be another very important objective to pick up if any team gets to Ocean Soul. It is back, baby. Ocean Soul is so good on the durability patch. But it is still a small advantage going over to FlyQuest. And as we continue to see Yuji being aggressive and living in his opponent's jungle, it becomes so difficult for Tomio to do anything. And I feel like this has kind of been a recurring theme because Tomio has historically been overtaxed by his laners, right? Constantly being asked to come over to their lane to help him out with whatever ganks that he can provide. He's lost a lot of CS, and Yuji's preying on that.
Okay, Surdy takes a beating from Kumo in the top lane there. Well, they might be even on CS. Having that Trinity Force already completed for Kumo will give him a lot of control over Surdy, even forcing out the TP with Tomio in the vicinity, but not the confidence to remain there.
Or will they?
I mean, the thing is, they have Smoothie nearby, and it is a cannon minion wave crashing, so I think that backing there would have been a bit risky for the side of Surdy, if not detrimental. Wait. Ow.
Yeah. Okay, this is actually something that Surdy does, like, better than almost any other top laner that we've seen, right? He fakes backs like no one else.
That is true.
He will start it, and he will just sit there and wait for you to commit to actually pushing the wave or not, and he will end up getting an extra wave here and there. And while each individual fake doesn't necessarily like change the outcome of the game, the fact that he does it so consistently, the fact that he constantly challenges his opponents to make a decision, allows him to get away with a lot of things that other top laners won't even think about. So that's one of the big things that's always impressed me about Surdy, is he is so analytical. He's got such a good process-oriented way of thinking about the game that he ends up finding advantages that other top laners don't even think to look for.
Well, this is why so many people have praised Surdy in the past, looking at him as this upcoming talent in the top lane. It is getting put to the test here from Kumo, another talented top laner who's made it through to LCS quite a number of times, played it in Academy as well, won Academy, in fact, in the past when he was on Cloud9 Academy with Diamond. So having that experience still here for the side of FlyQuest, making sure that Surdy's whoops, excuse me, not getting it out of control just yet on Gwen, even looking for this charge with the Rift Herald just to put Surdy as far behind Kumo as possible.
Yeah, if they really want to actually take down the structure, if they can do it, that's a kill going over to both of them. That's so much extra money, and Tomo and Diamond here to make sure that they are safe. But it's being traded for pressure down in the bottom side, right? Soligo has done a good job at continuing to bully around Spyrex using his extra range.
Yeah, and getting the turret as well. It is a nice favorable trade for the side of Evil Geniuses, getting more gold for Soligo, but they still need to make it up on other lanes too. Well, mostly I'm just looking at how the jungle matchup's going and how the top lane matchup's going. Because if you look at the deficit for these teams, it's a 3,000 gold deficit, and it's all between those two lanes.
Yeah. And it's kind of, again, we have to kind of note that just having a Sen in a game, like, screws up a lot of our calculations.
I mean, I just swap it. I just compare the Senna to the support and the Ezreal to Tahm Kench.
Hold on, we got to fight.
Well, do we?
I think Soligo's behind them.
I think so as well. Sneaky, getting pinged out. Tomio's there, but they don't want to pull the trigger. Not sure where Yuji is either.
Yeah, a bit surprised that they weren't willing to actually commit for
They're
that.
not afraid.
But you do have a dragon coming up in 70 seconds. You want to make sure that you get your backs in. So, you know, there is some truth to that, right? You can kind of swap them and it'll give you a decent approximation. And so Diamond, the fact that he's not super far behind Kauri is actually a pretty big win coming out from FlyQuest. We already talked about that. But this Tahm Kench is going to be very tanky. Tomo doesn't necessarily need a ton of gold as long as they are getting the stacks and having opportunities to move around. But this is when this turret going down is a big win for FlyQuest. Because one of the big things about Senna that you don't often see in solo queue is the ability to roam around with your jungler and actually get mid lane priority, right? Every single time you push a wave out, you want Senna to go walk around with Yuji or whoever else and take a camp. Raptors is going to give you 2-3 souls. Krugs will give you like 5 or 6 souls sometimes, right? So just the fact that they now topple this top lane turret can really accelerate Tomo.
Especially when you have an Umbral Glaive built for Senna too, so not only are you getting those souls, but you're starting to clear out some vision control that your enemies might place down, setting themselves up for neutral objectives such as this dragon that will be spawning here in just a few seconds. Evil Geniuses have the inside track, but with a cannon barrage on the other side and TP coming in from Kumo to make sure that he is here, it's going to be difficult for Evil Geniuses to actually get on top of it quickly.
Yeah, and Weaver's Wall is such a big threat to the members of Evil Geniuses. Not all of them can get out without their flash, and he goes.
Oh, he's got Surdy on one side, and nice seismic shove onto Tomio. He's able to block a little bit. The flash in. The Crescent Strike does a lot to mitigate the damage, but the snipe is there for the backline. 1-for-1 at the moment, but they got rid of the jungler. Now they've got rid of the mid laner, so it actually is looking like it might be an even fight across the board for both sides with low health bars. And look at Surdy, he's getting down. Same with Kauri's double kill on the other side with Yuji now being the focus. He's rooted in place. The one form of CC they can rely on, I suppose. Nets a triple kill, possibly even a quadra if they want to go further. But they already won the fight. They might as well just go back and secure their prize.
Even though Kauri's the one who gets all the kills, it's Soligo who's the hero of that fight, disrupting everything after Tomio gets caught out. Tomio ends up limping away. But the fact that Soligo gets so much control gives Evil Geniuses this dragon and finds multiple kills for Kauri because there's nothing left for the members of FlyQuest to actually do to get on top of him. This is a big win coming out from Evil Geniuses, who once again, they're looking at a deficit coming into the mid game. As we take a look at this replay, Magical, watch what Soligo actually does and how much space it creates for Kauri, right? Tomio, it'll end up going down very quickly, but Soligo, he has the tools. We said he's the majority of his team's crowd control. He gets everybody taken care of, and as soon as they all dive onto Soligo, there's no tools left for them to try and get onto Kauri. He's able to free hit for the rest of the fight. I'm
just going to watch Soligo at this point, see how he uses... Watching, waiting. There it is. That is a great use of the Emperor's Divide. Even though he does eventually fall in the fight, it makes sure that Kauri, he's pretty much over the wall, free firing. He gets a little bit of focus and a couple barrels, but he's strong enough to just constantly wail away at these members of FlyQuest.
Yeah, and while, you know, there's might be some small opportunities for him to maximize damage even more, the fact that he's constantly able to output against all of these other ranged champions is amazing.
We'll go back to live. There's a TP in from Surdy. Yuji has to use collateral damage to create a little bit of distance, but they've got so much damage that it can follow up. Tomio is there as well, so they can burn down Spyrex. Yuji, at least he's still alive for now, but Tomo on the other side has to get gobbled up, devoured by Diamond to make sure they both get out alive.
Yeah, nice. You don't see that combo quite as often as you probably should, but Diamond is there. He is ready, but with Spyrex down, Evil Geniuses starting up the Baron. They've really come alive here in this mid game.
Pretty risky, though. Even if they have a Zir who can melt through this pretty quickly, that's going to be the Cannon Barrage, doing a little bit of damage to these members on Evil Genius' side. And Yuji's still alive. He can still smite secure with Tomio being so low. Suri's got to create a lot of distance and a lot of space for the team. They've secured the Baron. Now they got to get out alive. Tomio, he's got the shields, and they've got the kill on a Yuji. Somehow they turn it around with Kumo now getting the focus from Kaori. Poked down little by little, nearly snipped apart by Suri. But look at Kaori, still chasing, still hunting with Saligo. They have to let their prey go, but they've got the Texan Bullworm and they've got the Baron buff.
They're in so much control at this point, right? Kaori is a monster for the next couple of minutes. He's already in 2 items, and he's going to be able to do so much damage to this mid lane turret. FlyQuest, they're looking for the ways back in, but they just don't feel like they are in the same kind of control as they have been in a lot of their wins. They don't seem to be moving around as crisply as we've seen in the past. And Evil Geniuses are preying on that by making simple decisions that are constantly working out.
Well, unlike last game where it was a 6,000 gold deficit between the two teams, I believe this game it was a maximum 3,000 between the two teams. A lot easier for Evil Geniuses to overcome that deficit, get themselves back into the game. And while they're still behind a little bit in gold, they've got themselves pretty big power spikes on their side.
And we already noticed that Kaori's got the completed Duskblade as well. He will absolutely shred all of these squishy members.
He's hitting them with the bank.
He's got so much money. Diamond is basically the only person who won't get absolutely dunked on every single time one of these Qs comes out. Even Yuji, who's going with his tankier build, doesn't have a whole lot of armor until the fight has already gone on for a little while.
And you can see that they're just utilizing Diamond to frontline as best as possible, knowing that that is their only line and their only salvation against Kaori. But all in all, at the moment, Evil Geniuses seem to be setting up a 1-3-1 while Suri dives back in, gets the TB out as well, forces a flash from Spyrex. But that's a lot of damage that was laid out by Suri with Saligo on the other side. Doesn't really want to chase that down, especially that deep into enemy territory when you know all 5 members are nearby.
As they back out, Evil Geniuses, they do maintain total control, and Saligo with the Baron buff is very close to taking this structure down, but the mid lane, it feels like both of these turrets are just inches away. Evil Geniuses just need to choose which one they actually want to go for. And it looks like the answer is going to be the top side. It is going to be Tomio and Saligo both getting a kill.
Looks like a mid lane too. Well, I was about to say,
get it.
They got it as well, and they should get it right here. With Tomio, Saligo in a bad position. Nice Emperor's Divide to make sure that Spyrex didn't get to ride the wave all the way to its end so he can get out alive.
Yeah, Kaori has total control of this mid lane. Look at the Sheeprocs doing their job. He gets 2 turrets.
Almost.
Okay,
yes,
only one, but teleport.
No, he gets it, and there's the teleport coming in. Flashed away by Kaori, but now Kumo's by himself. He's on an island, and he's split up. He's trying to get away, but diving over the wall. Suri and Smoothie are both right on top of him, and Ignite burns, but Diamond keeps him alive. Nice Devour in.
That's another save from Diamond, but it is not going to be enough to win them this Ocean Dragon. FlyQuest don't have a way to get back in. They're only looking at potential steals from Yuji, and Yuji, he's already gone. He's doing the Krugs. He doesn't want any part of this, and it's a situation yet again where Evil Geniuses, they come out to a reasonable deficit early on, but they are just fighting back in the mid game. They're challenging FlyQuest, and I don't feel like Evil Geniuses are doing anything special. They just have all their members being willing to look for plays. They're walking forward and they're challenging FlyQuest for a lot of things that FlyQuest are trying to do, and that confidence is such a big difference maker, right? We talked about how you just need to find that first win, and suddenly it feels like everything will come after that. It feels like Evil Geniuses are trying to do that again.
And this time it seemed a lot more successful a lot earlier on as well. Last time it was about like the 30-minute mark, 35-minute mark where we started seeing more of that power coming in from Evil Geniuses. But here, for 1 and 2 for Kaori, having 3 items completed, already getting the last Whisper built as well to try to cut through the only person who can now absorb that pressure laid out by him in Diamond.
Yeah, Diamond will be a big problem for Kaori, but it's okay. You just kill everybody else, and then you focus down the...
Well, he's got a last Whisper now.
True. Almost got the Cyrildas completed, and Tomio coming in for a bit of a flank Very standard plays coming out from Evil Geniuses, but it might be enough.
Look at Spyrex on the other side. He's got that Weaver's Wall if he wants to split up the fight with Yuji taking a lot of damage. Surdy's jumping on top of him, chasing him down with the needlework, but needs to get that last proc so he can at least get the autos and get that reset. There it is. Got the auto, but didn't want to follow up any further, knowing that Kumo, this entire time, is just rage pushing. He is pushing the wave all the way into the inhibitor turret. That's why Surdy and Saligo are being called off from the fight to try to make sure they deny Kumo from just taking the base outright.
Yeah, Kumo doesn't live this, but he can get almost the entire structure. He might take the inhibitor turret down.
Let's see right now. He's got a lot of damage, but there's Kaori to save the day and save the base. Gets a shutdown on top of it all.
Not bad. I mean, getting the turret that low does mean that you can return to it. Kumo suddenly on the gangplank instead of the Tryndamere, the one who's looking to try and get this split pushing going. But he's going to still be down right up until the Baron actually spawns. And Evil Geniuses, they just challenged FlyQuest around the last Baron. I think they are in an opportunity to do it again.
Kumo not having TP either. A little bit more difficult for him to join in the fight, but Cannon Barrage is up. So they can create a little bit of space for themselves or try to see if they can harass Evil Geniuses if they go inside the pit. But at the moment, Evil Geniuses looking to secure some control first, knowing that this could be the opportunity for the FlyQuest to try to make a pick happen.
FlyQuest are going to be backing out, right? They're giving the red buff over to Tomo. He's got the completed Eclipse. He does do real damage at this point in the game. But FlyQuest, they're down a couple of crucial abilities, right? They don't have the flash on Diamond. He doesn't have the same kind of ability to save people. Kumo doesn't have the teleport for probably another like 40 seconds. But Evil Geniuses, they're not going to be able to punish some of these small windows that are currently up because they are trying to get their items completed. Kaori's got his Cyrilla's grudge done, and he will suddenly start keeping people locked up, and the chase potential from Evil Geniuses suddenly became so much stronger.
But Evil Geniuses don't want to start that fight despite the fact they can easily chase down. They don't have the flashes on members like Tomio just yet. They're getting a little bit of damage on one side with the TP coming in from Surdy to try to flank, but it's 5 members strong for FlyQuest, and it looks like a reverse of Fates where it was Kumo caught out last time. This time it's looking like Surdy, but is it? He's got so much damage, and look at the damage, look at that divide. The Shurima shuffle, make sure they can take out the Catfish first, and then follow up with a double kill for Kaori as they continue to look for more members of FlyQuest. FlyQuest try to chip at the health bars of Evil Geniuses, but they have lost the fight.
That's such a big play coming through. Diamond once again trying to save Kumo with the Devour, but it's not enough to get him over the wall. This is huge stuff coming out from Evil Geniuses. They're making, again, they're making simple plays, but they are executing on them well. They're looking for these opportunities to punish FlyQuest every time they go for it, and they find the Baron. They find themselves in a perfect position. I love seeing this Magical. When you take one objective and then you reset, you go to the other objective. Evil Genius is doing everything in lockstep with what they need to do to win.
It's almost looking like deja vu too with this game. 7-1-2 for Kaori. Different champion, Ezreal, but just as powerful, and he's got himself a stopwatch for the upcoming fight around this soul. Evil Geniuses, they could simply try to push. They don't have to really go for the dragon itself. They have ample opportunity to do anything they really want.
And now they're going to be playing for this Ocean Soul, right? They're looking to take control. They have Saligo coming up right in a moment.
So he goes behind. True Shot Barrage going to do a lot of damage. Seems that FlyQuest, well, they wanted to start a fight. They got themselves in a bad position, but the damage in the back line nearly taking out Tomio. He's got the Crushing Strike. He has to flash back towards his team, but he got annihilated there by Spyrex.
That's really dangerous, right? Suddenly, if your Smiter doesn't have any HP, he doesn't have Smite for 30 seconds at least. FlyQuest can try to pick up this dragon.
They're trying to. They try to make sure they have the inside angle on the dragon. They force Satchel go on one side. Tomio might have been able to regroup with the team, but like you called out, he does not have that smite available, so instead they're looking to see if they can get a flank from Surdy. A lot of damage now onto Yuji. He is the one looking low. It is a dragon that is low, so close, and it's secured by Kaori, taking away the objective right underneath the FlyQuest, so they can have this beautiful fight afterwards. Getting a kill on Tomo, looking for Yuji, double kill for Surdy, and they've even got Spyrex on top of it. It's a triple kill for Surdy as they start TPing into the enemy base.
Soligo going through absolutely crazy. Evil Geniuses envelop FlyQuest like a trap, and there's nowhere for FlyQuest to go. Cowrie even getting the smite down onto the dragon. It is just looking so good for Evil Geniuses. It was a bit of a mess at the beginning. They fell behind, but it's not going to matter when you are able to just chase Diamond into your own base.
Just chase them, ace them, clean up the game. FlyQuest, they suffer the curse that Evil Geniuses have upon themselves. The 1-1 Kings of Spring are back for the summer, baby, as they win the second game and go even against FlyQuest at 1-1.
Good stuff coming in from Evil Geniuses, right? It was a couple of real fighting games of League of Legends. Both teams had strong winning chances. Both teams were looking to actually make the plays that they needed. But Evil Geniuses, they weren't necessarily doing anything fancy in any of their fights. They were just going for good plays. They were getting sturdy in the flank position. They were looking for ways to pick apart this composition that really relies on front to backing. The fact that they're constantly putting the positions on FlyQuest where they have to have their tanks trying to deal with both the front and the back and everywhere in between just means that Evil Geniuses can slowly win these fights.
Well, and you gotta give massive praise to Evil Geniuses when it comes to their team fights. In the first game, that's nearly how they were able to claw it back, by punishing some mistakes from FlyQuest, having these amazing team fights. And here, in the second game, almost the same story, where it was the lane phases struggling a bit, but once they got grouped together, once they had more skirmishing, more team fighting, that's when they really started to show their strength.
I'm looking forward to it, right? We were asking, like, is FlyQuest going to be a top team? Is Evil Geniuses going to be a top team? They're both in a position where they can prove it, but there's still a lot that they're working on in order to prove that they can hang with teams like Team Liquid.
Yeah, and there, 1-1 FlyQuest might be a good case of maybe they can't hang with them, and maybe this is time for Evil Geniuses to soar up in the standings, but only time will tell. We're going to toss it to a break, and when we come back, we'll get ready for our second series of the day, so make sure you stay tuned.